Hi there, these comments are for MT, and I am Michael from OTCOnlineTOEFLCourse.com, and I'm getting ready to read your integrated writing task, and you have got to be the best writer I have probably ever taught in my online TOEFL course. If I had you in my upper division writing class at Cal State San Bernardino, I would be happy. My goodness. So you did an integrated writing practice test, and I'm looking at what you wrote here. I'm going to say you are pretty close to a perfect score here, 5. I think there's 1 or 2 minor issues in the essay. Let's see how bad they are and whether or not it brings down the score. It does say occasional language errors that are present do not result in inaccurate or imprecise presentation of content or connections. You have a natural academic writing. You're able to control those really long sentences with a lot of subordinate clauses in there. What control you have? Yes, that's what I'm talking about right there. Let's get right down to it here. My goodness. Let's see what we have. Now, everybody at YouTube watching this, the main thing is she has her introduction, she states the reading and the listening passage and shows a connection. Then she has 3 different body paragraphs, in which case she talks about the reading and the listening points and juxtaposes those coherently, accurately, completely. And just the control, your control over your sentence style. The author in the reading passage suggests the government to sell the Amtrak intercity train service to a privately I'm going to put suggest that. You need to make this correction. Suggest that the government sell, because you're kind of using this as a dependent clause here. So suggest that the government sell the Amtrak intercity train service to a privately owned company. However, the speaker in the listening passage disagrees with this suggestion. First of all, according to the author, the government is losing money on many Amtrak routes in remote and less populated areas, inasmuch as the ticket fares gained from the passengers cannot cover the maintenance expenses. Therefore, the government is losing millions of dollars every year, claims the author, due to its underused condition. Conversely, the speaker argues that the main purpose of, I'm going to put just Amtrak because we're using it as a proper noun and we don't typically put definite articles before proper nouns. But Michael, what about the United States or the United Kingdom? That's an exception. You have the main purpose of Amtrak is not to gain profit, but to provide public transportation services to all citizens. I'm going to remove the comma here because you're not really joining 2 different independent clauses there. However, I'm going to put the comma right here where you say, including the ones living in remote areas. Whew, what do we have here? How long is that sentence anyway? 33. This is about your average. I think your average is like 29.6. Those citizens who live in less populated areas, explained the speaker, also have the same right to use intercity train services. And I think you need to end the sentence here. You're over subordinating here. You're getting too eager with your longer sentences. So be careful about this one. That's 47 words. The problem is right here, I think you need to put a period and maybe use cause effect like this instead of that. So you say, let's read it again. Those citizens who live in less populated areas, explains the speaker, also have the same right to use intercity train services. Therefore, if the government sells Amtrak to a private company, those remote routes will be cut, which is against the main purpose of Amtrak. And I think that'll work better there. And still, that's still a 24-word sentence there, so that's fine. And the main thing is, What longer sentences do in academic writing, I want you to understand this, is we can read faster. We can get through your text faster with the longer sentences. Shorter sentences tend to slow things down. So if you want to emphasize an idea and you want the reader to pay more attention to that part of your writing, that's when you can use shorter sentences as opposed to longer ones. But the way that you're writing, it shows incredible control with sentence structure. Now, you have lost control a couple of times, but I still think you're at least 28 right here. Yes, second of all, the author mentions, maybe here you might put at the very end, concludes the speaker, you might say. Second of all, the author mentions that it is unfair for those private-owned companies. It's unfair. See, here's the question, and this is what I'm not sure about here. Do you want to say it's unfair to those companies because Amtrak is providing their train services at fairly low prices because the government? I think that's what you're trying to say here, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the YouTube comments. The author mentions that it is unfair to those private-owned companies as Amtrak is providing. I'm going to say it's. Why we got there? No. It's. You're talking about Amtrak. Amtrak is one company, a singular company. As Amtrak is providing its train services at a fairly low price because the government is providing funds to support its operations. Now, let me give you a little bit better word here. How about this? How about that? Is providing funds to subsidize its operation. That even elevates your writing more. On the other hand, the private-owned transportation companies do not have the financial support from the government I'm going to put here so that, or just so, cause effect. So they're having an enormous amount of burden for this ticket price competition. And I think that'll work. So this is your issue here. I want you to review at Google. I want you to go into Google and look at how to use in that in a sentence, or put quotes in that in English grammar, or using in that as an adverb clause connector, something like that. Sometimes you're not sure how to use that. That can be used as an adjective clause. That can also be used as a noun clause. But if you want to use it as an adverb clause, you have to use in that with it. Now, I don't think you're 100% certain on that. So get some sample sentences. This is what I think you want to do right here. Get some sample sentences using that and some sample sentences using in that. So they're having an enormous amount of burden for this ticket price competition. In contrast, the speaker explains that the government is actually supporting those private-owned transportation companies by providing the air traffic control towers, the weather satellites, and many other fundamental services. This is genius. You use the word fundamental because it kind of restates and refers back to these other ideas. That was a great word, a synonym to use to help tie it back to the ideas already mentioned. Your writing is beautiful. It is so coherent and cohesive. And the syntactic variety, it's like candy in a shop to me. My goodness. Therefore, according to the speaker, this unfair statement is ridiculous. Finally, the government argues the author should direct its fundings more to the maintenance and improvement of the highway systems because less than 1% of people who travel among cities are using Amtrak. The Amtrak to me is a systematic error. I will not factor that into the score. I don't think that's a major problem. Therefore, rail travel, why are we capitalizing this? Rail travel is less important in the U.S. See, again, it's the that. The that is killing your sentence structure. But if you have, it is so important that the government should spend blah, 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 right? So if you have so, you can say that, but you don't have so, right? But then if you're using that maybe as an adjective clause, maybe you can say, let's use a semicolon and give you a cause-effect relationship here. I know it chops down the sentence a little bit, but I don't think it'll matter because your sentences are already so incredibly well written. So we'll have rail travel is less important in the U.S. Thus, the government should spend more money into a more dominant means of transport such as the highway. However, the speaker asserts that the government should invest more money into railway constructions to update the routes to high-speed train lines, just like what has been done in Japan and Europe. To illustrate, the speaker emphasizes that the U.S. citizens are not intended to travel by train, emphasizes the fact that you pulled it off. So you're using emphasizes plus you're using a noun clause. So the speaker emphasizes that the U.S. citizens are not intended to travel by train. I don't think you need is here. Am I wrong here? Let's look at it again here. The speaker emphasizes what? So emphasizes that the U.S. citizens are not intended to travel by train due to the out-of-date status of Amtrak, but if the government can improve the service, more people will be attracted to use the railway transportation. So I think I got it. So in this case, you have a subject here, you have a verb here, right? So you do not need a second verb with that independent clause. So that's why I'm getting rid of is, but you did say that. Here, you have the U.S. citizens are not intended. So this is a complex sentence with an independent clause and a dependent clause. That's exactly what it is. Okay, so now what? I don't know. Let me look at the grade level here. I want to get rid of this. Okay, let's see what grade level you're at here. I'm going to go ahead and edit the document just quickly to see how you're doing with it. So I made some corrections. So about 2 or 3 times you kind of lost a little bit of control with your sentence structure, but still, I think this really shows, this showcases your incredible writing abilities. Wow. So I lowered your writing. I think your writing level is almost 15 grade. It was the 15 year, according to the Flesh Kincaid grade level. Look at this. So words per sentence, 27.2. Characters per word, we have 5.2. The ease is 37.6. So once you get to 0, it means really, really tough to read. So anything below 50 is considered pretty academic. So your grade level here is 14.3. Passive sentences are 20.0. And I think when you're doing integrated writing, you will have some passive sentences in there because your whole purpose is to focus on the information. You're not really focusing at all on your own personal experience there, but I would be careful about too many passive voice sentences, really. It makes it hard to read, even in an academic writing, unless it's research writing. And then research writing and scientific writing, you'll probably have more passive voice and that type of writing. But what can we say here? I really think that I said 28 to 30. I'm going to say 29 to 30 on this thing. I really believe that your writing, I mean, if I'm going to be honest with you, it is above, way above the TOEFL. You're writing really at the graduate level. That's what I'm saying here. You're writing close to graduate level writing in English. I can see you writing a great research paper, some type of a scholarly article like a professor would write. I can see that in your writing because of your sentence length and your control of your word choice and things. So I'm still going to put you at 29 to 30 points on this. I know I made a few corrections, but I still think that this is a really, really sharp, incredibly well-written piece of integrated writing. So if you're in my upper division writing class at Cal State University, I would be completely comfortable when you were doing your research papers. You know how to do the voice markers, you're using the present tense verbs when you do it, and you have a really good sense of how to write your sentences and how to put them within those paragraphs. And I know that you had some problems with that. That's the thing that you want to really try to figure out. How do you use that? If you go to Google, type in these keywords, using that as a noun clause or adjective clause connector, maybe in English grammar. See if you can get some ideas on that. But you can't use it to show cause effect. That's where your writing kind of goes off the rail. So you don't want to do it in that sense. All right, so I think that's it. And my goodness, what a great essay that you've written. And I'm going to say the one thing I want to caution you about longer sentences, be careful of over subordination. You can overdo it. You can have too many super long sentences, so be careful about that. So I think overdoing it would be a 50 or 60 word sentence. I think even in academic writing, you're probably overdoing it. But keeping your sentences between 20 and 30 words, I think that's completely appropriate for academic writing. So here's the TOEFL writing, right? So I think that you're above that now. You're beyond what the rubrics even allow. So you're above that. So remember that there's a risk that if you do too many longer sentences, you risk having some problems with your connecting, using the right connectors, and that's where you had some problems, right? So just don't go overboard, keep things between 20 and 30, and then be careful, make sure you're using the right connectors and things like that, and be careful you're not over using what we call dependent clauses in your academic writing. All right, but great job on it. And I can honestly say, I can say this, you are the most talented writer. You're the most talented writer I think I've probably ever had in my online TOEFL course ever. And I've been using this course now for about 11 years. And that says a lot. Now I know that you're professional. I understand where you're going, but it's so refreshing to see somebody who's a non-native speaker to write at the level that you're writing. And that shows my students at YouTube who watch these videos that you can master. It is entirely possible to have a native speaker, even better than a native speaker, mastery of writing. That's what you show me in what I just read today. You're showing me that you can completely master academic writing at a super high level, even though English is not your first language. That's what it shows me. All right, thank you.